Hello. So I'm just going to carry on as if you've been here all along, following along, watching some of my other videos, and you kind of know what's going on. So if you don't, sorry about that. But hey, I have figured out my health condition. So if you haven't been following along, basically I kept struggling with cutting out sugar and finally cut it out for like a month, but didn't experience any weight loss, and my energy levels were more even, I would say, during that time, but my body wasn't responding to the cleaner diet that I was eating, and I just didn't know why. And so anyway, whatever, I came across, was kind of just like trying different things, asking the universe for answers, and I came across this video of a doctor talking about I think he called it like adrenal syndrome or something like that. Hold on, my virus protection is offering me to run a scan. It's not a good time. And now it's saying my memory is low. Okay, I will put some memory. I'll put some stuff on my external storage, but not now. All right. So he's talking about adrenal syndrome or something like that. Says doctors don't really recognize it. But as he's like describing it, and he's even got this textbook which is showing the body type, and it's my body. It's like a picture of my body. And I was just like, oh damn. And he's talking about the symptoms. He shows like the biology of what's actually happening in the body. And specifically it says when this syndrome is happening, that you could not be intaking any sugar, and your liver will be turning your protein into sugar because your body needs it to run. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was actually like taxing my body in a way. And he just talks about what you can do to remedy it. So I've been taking the steps to remedy it. I don't want to, diagnose you, so I'm not going to share all my symptoms or my steps and things like that. But look into it if you think it's, something that's resonating with you. But I was really excited to find that because, it was just so many answers for me. And I was really kind of looking for it to be resolved from a spiritual level. But as we know, if you've been following along, that to resolve something from a spiritual level, we really need to learn what we were meant to learn about it first. Like, you can't just like snap your fingers and be like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that anymore, if that's your karma. And that was my karma because I've said in another video that this body type that I have is ancestral. It's in my family line. And that's because this adrenal syndrome is in my family line. So in order to resolve the karma of it, the energy of it, I needed to understand it, right? So if you're going along through life and you have misunderstandings, these are the equivalent of places where you're stuck or looping. You might not even realize you're stuck or looping if you haven't noticed the pattern yet. If you haven't noticed a desire to break free of something that you're trying to break free of, and an inability to do so. You may not even realize that that's what's going on yet until you get to that point where you do want to break free, where you're trying to stop the pattern and you can't, or whatnot, or that you even notice a pattern. So I was thinking about this in terms of, let's see, earlier I came upon a vlogger who was someone who I hadn't seen before. I think it was like Park Pass or something like that was his channel name. It's not really relevant, but what he was sharing was saying that everybody has days where they're sad. He was saying this. And he was kind of just like talking to his audience, telling them how much he loves them and how they matter and how not to forget that the mood will pass, and things like that. And I was thinking about how, Yes, that's true, but also like looking at it from this bigger picture view, what he was saying. And it just kind of clicked in for me in that moment. It was like, well, yeah, because we live in duality, everything that's true, the opposite is also true. Every way to experience an energy is available to us. So we can experience the high or the low end of an energy. So here's why you would be tending to experience the low part of an energy, is because you haven't yet fully understood it. See? It will loop in your experience in a way that will get your attention if you haven't yet fully understood it. If you could just choose to think another way and it never came back, then that would not be the case. It's specifically something where you didn't choose it, but you also can't get out of it. You know what I mean? It's like a loop. And then I was thinking about it in terms of this. Because we do live in duality, because there's an axis of this energy, right? The light and the dark of it, basically. Because that is the fact of how this world we're living in works. Whenever you have something that you cannot accept, that you're railing against, that you're fighting against, that you're justifying, that you're not in acceptance of, whether you're judging someone else, projecting onto someone else something that's within you, in denial, fabricating, if you're not in acceptance of whatever it may be, anything you're not in acceptance of is basically the box you're stuck in and that you're needing to understand. So say there's something that's kind of haunting you and it won't go away and it keeps bugging you and you don't know how to solve it. Look for where you're in denial. Look for where you're judging something. Look for where you're projecting. Look for who you're blaming. Look for the shame that you're trying to avoid by not looking at it deep enough. Shame, blame, justification, denial, fabrication. Where are you lying to yourself anywhere? The more transparent and authentic you can be with yourself, the better chance you have of moving out and through that. Now, say this is the case. Say it's something where you really value, like, here's an example that I think I can use. I can't see the big picture of it right now, but I'm just going to start saying it and hopefully it makes sense by the time I'm done saying it. Here's an example. Say you're a person that might need help but is not willing to ask for help. It may not be one after the other, but throughout your life you'll find there are lots of times where you are presented with an opportunity to ask for help, specifically because you are unwilling to do it, and specifically because it's looping in your energy to give you another chance to look at it from a different angle. And when it's getting closer to needing to be healed, the situation might get more dire. You might have no choice but to ask for help. And you might be more and more willing to ask for help as things get harder and harder. It could start happening in rapid succession where all of a sudden you need a lot of help. I mean, and I won't go into details, but you can see where that could go. Like if your soul was here to specifically learn how to ask for help, and you just would not allow that for yourself because of what you believed it meant about you. Your soul could do a lot to try to teach you that lesson. And what was ultimately standing in the way was your misunderstanding about what that meant about you. Maybe you grew up thinking or being told it was weak to ask for help, or You shouldn't be a bother to anyone else. Or if you did ask for help, maybe people use it against you, or you were attacked in that vulnerability that you showed. And maybe you have since decided as a coping mechanism you would not be vulnerable in that way again. Well, all of that's a misunderstanding. So until you understand yourself and why you've decided this, why you're functioning in this way, what is the truth of the matter, first of all, you understand how you feel about it and validate it. And by no means should the process be like, oh, I misunderstood that, I was wrong, and beat yourself up because you were wrong. No. To actually neutralize the energy, first you understand why you believed it that way. And accept that. And make that okay. And then when you're okay with that, when you can accept that, then the other possibilities will open up. And you can accept those too. So, yeah, I don't know. I just had this thought about how if we're living in duality, we're always going to be, there could always be a time when you feel sad. But what are you making that mean about you? You know? Like, if I have a sadness, you know, usually I'll notice it right away and I'll acknowledge it. And then I sometimes validate myself if there's a reason why, and I know why I'm sad. I'll acknowledge that for myself too. I'll validate that reason of mine for being sad. Sometimes I don't even need to do that. I just need to know, oh, I feel a sadness. I'm acknowledging it. I'm accepting it. Oh, this sadness is with me for whatever reason. And then I accept and let myself feel the sadness. So what I do right there is become the neutral conduit through which this sadness can pass. Because I haven't judged it, I haven't misunderstood it, because I haven't told a story about it. Or if I did tell a story about it, I accepted that story as a story that I told about it, an understanding of what my perspective was at the time. So it's an acceptance. So sometimes it's just understanding yourself that will neutralize the energy and let it pass through. When you become neutral, you become the space where the energy can pass through. And it's like, otherwise, if you own that sadness, say it's yours and there's a valid reason for it and you're going to hold on to it, or actually a justified reason for it, right? And you're going to hold on to it, you're essentially like claiming sadness as part of you so it will stay with you. If there comes a time when you don't prefer to always have to carry the burden of feeling sad, you might opt for alchemy and you might allow it to pass through. You might stop justifying why you need to have it and stop telling the story about why it's yours. You might allow for another possibility. So anytime we're not in acceptance, this is going to create an experience of karma, basically. Because everything that you see in someone else, whether it's something you know about or don't know about or have done or would never do, you have to accept it. Because if you don't accept it, you are basically anchoring yourself to that energy as something that you are misunderstanding. And it will repeat in your reality. So if you've decided something means something that it doesn't mean, that's a misunderstanding that could anchor it into your reality instead of accepting it. You know, we don't always know what something means. And even if we think we know what something means, we don't know everything that it means. There are limitless possibilities. There's an unlimited amount of interpretations and perspectives that could be utilized about one thing. And when you just look at the one thing, that's not the whole truth of everything. Because there's a bigger picture view, it's in another context. If you look at the Hermetic principles, it talks about the planes of existence, right? So the way that you manipulate one plane is to operate on the higher plane. So if you're focused in on one piece of information, you are not realizing that there's other higher planes that trump that thing that you're focused in on. So you are probably misunderstanding it if you're that fixated on it. There's this understanding that we all have now of quantum physics. And one of the most well-known things about quantum physics is that we know that something cannot be observed without being affected by the fact that it's being observed. We as observers are part of the equation. So when you're looking at something and it's behaving a certain way, if you don't automatically bring your awareness up to a bigger plane, then you're going to be lost in that little focus. You're just in a little loop, an infinite loop, by the way, you know? And just the fact of knowing that something is affected by you observing it brings your awareness bigger, and then you can look at that and like put yourself in the equation. Always put yourself in the equation. You cannot observe something without affecting it. Also, when you observe something, it's always going to be through the lens of your own perspective, which is going to be filtered through your beliefs. You won't see something through a perspective that is the full truth if you have a limiting belief in the way of it. And you probably have a lot of them. We probably all do. If you are not in the biggest awareness there is, which you're not, and on earth, that's how we get to have these experiences that we have, right? So I'm not saying any of this is wrong. I'm saying if you can be aware of this and how it works, then you can understand the places where you're uncomfortable, the places where you feel stuck, the places where you don't want to keep looping in that. You can understand why it's happening and you can do something actually about it. And it's going to require you to open your mind, to accept, to be willing to see a different perspective. And a lot of times, the perspective you're in when you've been on that lower plane of existence, or just the 3D existence, it's shaped by a lot of egoic coping mechanisms that are designed to keep you safe and to help you navigate a fearful existence that you may have been coming up through or experiencing, in your ancestry, an inheritance, a karmic inheritance, a karma that you are experiencing. Could be that you are living in such a way where you act in certain ways to avoid having to feel fearful or pain. And because you've been surrounded by people who do the same thing, you may not even be aware that there's another option until you are aware that there's another option. And then when you see that there's another option, if there's an egoic coping structure in you that decides to turn against that other option and call that other option evil or bad or wrong or judge it, then you actually solidify yourself into the limitation. You cannot accept something. You actually solidify yourself into the limitation. And the evolution that we're now going through on Earth is an evolution of our consciousness. But what that essentially means is we're evolving our beliefs. Because you are limited by your beliefs. So if you don't believe something is possible, it doesn't make it not possible, but it makes it not possible for you. So if other people are living that, and you're in a coping structure that wants to vilify them and decide that there must be something sneaky or wrong or something that's off limits to you, or that you're lesser, or that you can't be bothered, or whatever it is. Whatever keeps you from actually accepting that that is a possibility is the thing that's limiting you. So the more you can accept, and also what you're accepting is that you don't know, that there are limitless possibilities and that you don't know what they are. And you might be like, well, how do you operate then? Well, you operate by your navigation system, which is internal. And you might want to look into human design if you want to get a little bit more specific. But you can also learn through trial and error of your own experiment for your own self and see what works for you. But when the information for your navigating is coming through your curiosity or this internal urge towards something, you know, an internal calling, an intuition that says, yeah, that, those are the things that you want to follow. Because you can see very easily when I say that if you follow what's inside you, what's coming from within you, then you are navigating from your purpose for being here on earth, from what you came to experience, and you're on the road, the path that will provide you opportunity to offer what you have to give here. Your special thing, your something. We all have something, right, that we are here to contribute. And it's just you. But maybe you're going to present it in a certain way. Maybe you're going to be creative about it. Maybe you're just going to be a strong, stable force. Whatever it is, you feel most fulfilled when you are on that path, when you're doing that thing. You know? I found that so many times if I were to listen to what society told me or what other people told me or what they expected or went in a certain direction would be so I wouldn't be judged or thought less of or whatever. All the things that they told me to do, different groups at different times, whatever, and not necessarily literally, but, me trying to fit in or go along with what was expected or what made me a good person in society, right? Those things would not be the thing for me a lot of times. And I can think of this in terms of relationships sometimes, there's certain criterias and certain what I should and should not put up with or, learn through and from or be around, or, and this and that. It's like my actual path, when I knew I was on path, and this is after I broke free of a lot of the programming, involves stuff that other people would not probably choose for themselves and probably should not. Because I was built for it. They weren't. I was built for it. I was built for my path. I didn't get the workout, the soul workout that I needed on the path that wasn't mine. But I got it on the path that was mine. I got the place where I'm like fulfilled. I got the place where I'm like, oh, I did it. Oh, celebrate how far I've come. Oh, look at the progress. Oh my God, this is amazing. This is like magic. And I figured it out and I did it. No one told me what to do. This is the life that I created and I'm getting to live it out because I'm willing to follow what is inside of me, what my heart is leading to, what my curiosity is leading me to, and what I am and what I'm designed for. And finding out what I'm designed for too at the same time. Because it's not like I'm going forward knowing what's going to happen. You know? It's just in retrospect where I look back a couple steps and go, "Oh, yeah, look how far I've come. Oh, celebrate how far I've come. Oh my gosh, look what I did. I built this within myself. I uncovered this about myself. Oh, wow, I built this muscle." You know? And that's a path that somebody else would have told me get off that path. That's not what you should be doing. It's like, oh no, I know what I'm meant to be doing. I mean, I don't know where it's leading exactly. I don't know when I'll get there exactly. I just feel it with with the momentum of my motion, you know? And even if that includes stop, rest, rejuvenate, take care of this health issue, figure it out, give my body what I need, in terms of repairing, giving my body the resources it needs to regulate and repair a dysfunctional system. You know, what it was is my adrenal system was off because of so much stress. And the interesting thing is that the stress wasn't from what I was actually going through. I was going through, what you might classify as very stressful things. And I haven't shared a lot about it because it just, it was just stuff that I couldn't really share without violating other people's privacy. But we're coming to a place where I may be able to share about it in the future. We'll see, because it's like we're out the other side of it kind of sort of thing, and we'll see. But anyway, what I can say is that I was built for it. And what caused me stress about it was not knowing that and thinking that it shouldn't be happening. Thinking that it meant something else about me. Thinking, oh, this is happening, so this means I'm bad or wrong, or I've done something terrible, or, that this is a reflection of me. Whatever I was dealing with that was challenging, if I had known that this challenge was mine, instead of trying to go by what other people said about people who have that challenge or what you should do in the face of that challenge. They all didn't have the answer, but I did a lot of trial and error trying what they suggested before I understood that that was not going to work for me. And by the time I got to a space where I was more in tune with myself by trial and erroring, I was not only not more in tune with myself, but I was also sort of exhausted with my resources. Like I had exhausted my resources. So it was kind of like, okay, well, let's take a little rest. Let's rejuvenate. Let's give myself the potassium and the vitamin D and, make sure that I'm drinking enough water and, giving my body what it needs. And then we can go forward. And now, just and like I also want to say that trying all the ways that I tried before that were other people's ways, it wasn't like lost time. It wasn't, I mean, it did strengthen me. It did strengthen my so-called muscles. Like I I feel so much more able, to withstand, to be resilient, to persevere in the face of challenge. And I mean, it would be hard not to attribute that to the path that got me here, which was a lot of trial and error. And an interesting thing, though, is that what I'm realizing is, as a person, if I just want to navigate through what I'm drawn to without doing the trial and error of trying everything else everyone else has to suggest, then it's a more direct route. You know what I mean? And then, like, it's not exhausting my resources on the way there. And I'm at a point where I'm definitely willing, able, and wanting to trust that, to go with that, to go with my own fuel, to go with my own ideas and impetus and creation. So, yeah, apparently getting some messages. It's one of my sons, and he's sending a test text. And That's the second test. He said so. I don't know if he's got my response last time. Maybe I'm getting his text, but he's not getting mine. I don't know. Anyway, that's my thoughts that I wanted to share. That, yeah, there's the light and the dark of it. And if we just go forward with acceptance for what is and let our inner guidance lead us. You know? It's like you don't need competition to perpetuate a forward motion in yourself. You don't need like this goal. You don't even need this goal. I mean, maybe some people do. I don't want to speak for everybody, but like I said, I'm going forward into the unknown. That's the most exhilarating, scary thing I could do. And I trust it, you know? It's scary, but I trust it. It's like I know I'm stepping off a cliff, but I also know that I will be caught. Like I know that there's a soft landing for me. It's like that, you know? It's like there's still this sort of thrill in it, but it's also like, it's not that risky because I know, I have faith, you know? I know I'll be all right. Let's see if my message went through. No, my message did not go through to him. All right, so maybe I'll put a timestamp in and we'll do, let's see what my card said. We'll do a where do you stand? I got my light and the dark of it deck. We're going to do 3 piles. Where do you stand? I'm just looking for objects to see if I should hold up some objects. Yeah, let's do this. This Palo Santo, this little bag of clips, and this candle. These are the objects. 1, 2, 3. I made this candle. I got this little dip in it, but I made 2 and the other one burned just fine. So thankfully, lesson learned. I guess you can't pour candle wax when it's extra hot. And that'll happen. Let's go with pick 1. Pick 1, where do you stand? Answer the call. Fear reaction. I'm going to get one more for you. Pick 1. Answer the call and fear reaction. Okay. So something you're doing is a reaction that is fear-based. So it's like you're being called to something. Okay. You're being called to something. And when you're called to it, maybe you talk yourself out of it. Like, oh, that would look stupid, or oh, I don't want to do that, or oh, that doesn't make sense, you know? How did it happen to me the other day? Oh, this happened to me the other day. I was going over to clean something for my son, one of my sons. One of my sons gets some extra help from me sometimes with, basic stuff. And cleaning is one of them. And so I had already dropped off some bleach at his house and some like rubber gloves for cleaning and stuff. And on this particular day, I was going over to do the clean. And when I was leaving my house, I was going up the door, and I opened my cabinet, and I was like, should I take my bleach with me? And I knew I had already bought a bleach and left it at his house. So it was a weird thing for me to even question, right in that moment. But like this something made me open my cabinet and then go, oh, should I take my bleach? Like there was no reason other for me to be in that cabinet. I was literally going out my door when this happened. And then I just talked myself out of it. And I was like, I don't want the bleach to spill in my car. I've got bleach there. It'll be fine. So whatever. I get there. Doors are locked. I can't get in. I could still do the cleaning that I need to do because it's on an outside area. And except for the bleach that I need. And I have gloves in my car because I keep gloves in my car in the back. But the bleach that I need is in the house. And I don't have my bleach with me because I talked myself out of it. So in actuality, in retrospect, my intuition was trying to say, hey, you're going to need your bleach. Because I had gloves already in my car, so even if I couldn't get the gloves in the house, that was fine. As long as I had the bleach with me, I would use the gloves that I had in my car, and I would be able to clean the thing without worrying about not being able to get in the house to get the supplies. Except for, I ignored my intuition. I talked myself out of it because it didn't make sense. It was too risky to have bleach in my car, It's like, and then I had to actually wait for the door to get unlocked before I could proceed with my task. Which all in all, it wasn't a terrible thing, nothing terrible happened, in order, just out of me having to wait or whatever. But this is an example of the calling came. The call was, grab your bleach, you're going to need it. I ignored it. I talked myself out of it. I was like, it didn't make logical sense, so I didn't do it. It was out of fear that my bleach would spill in my car and like wreck something. It was fear that kept me from just taking the bleach, right? If I didn't fear something bad happening with the bleach, I would have just taken it. So fear actually helped me talk myself out of answering the call. Now, this could be on any level for you. I'm talking about a very practical, mundane thing. But this could be something big for you, Have you been called to something that you've let yourself talk yourself out of, or that you've reacted in such a way that's actually based in fear? Something logical, even, Your logic could talk you out based on something fearful that could happen. And then the last card you got is, you no longer recreate the past. So you're in a new cycle here. You've broken out of an old cycle. So you haven't noticed this as a pattern yet. What you're doing right now, you have not noticed this as a pattern, right? Because if it's like you always react this way when that happens, that's a pattern. That's you recreating the past over and over again. But in this case, this is saying that's not the case here. This might be the very first cycle. You're in new territory. It's unknown. And there's fear creeping up, maybe based on the unknown. There's a call. Oh, that's what it is. There's a call. There's a calling. It's either your curiosity or your intuition or your heart. And it's asking you to move forward. But you don't know what's going to happen when you do. And that is what the fear is about. So this is asking you to be okay with the unknown. That's where you stand. Pick one. Pick one. You stand at a crossroads of stepping into the unknown, or risking going back into an old pattern, or risking staying in this holding pattern of being afraid to answer your call. If you don't answer the call, you're not going to get another call for something else. It's like you can't bypass this. This is the call. This call will repeat at some point, maybe when it feels you're ready again. You might dull it out. You might be in denial of it. You might try to logic it away. You might try to tell yourself not to go in that direction for whatever reason. But this is the call. It's okay. I'm gonna stop there. That's where you stand, pick one. Okay. Now I also want to say that's not good or bad, pick one, okay? That's not good or bad. This is just giving you a heads up, right? All right, now I'm going to move forward to pick two. Pick two. Pick two, where do you stand? You know what song just popped in my head? Bop. You remember Bop by Hanson? There's actually a remake. When I say remake, it's just like they toured, this 25 years later or whatever, and they recorded it. So there's a recording of them live doing it now. I actually like it. I don't know if the song has any relevance to the reading. Let's see if anything else comes up. I'm pulling two more cards for you, pick two. Where do you stand? It's a secret no one knows. It's a secret no one knows. No one knows. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the lyrics to see what the meaning of that song is. Can you tell me? No, you can't, 'cause you don't know. Can you tell me? Say you can, but you don't know. All right, you got 5 cards. First one was presence. Where you stand, you're in presence. So you probably are aware that you're behaving in darkness. Meaning like you're behaving in your lower nature. And you are aware of it. Because if you're in presence, you are aware of it. And this is kind of saying you have free will. Like this is your choice, something you've chosen to do. Not saying it's wrong. Maybe you're learning something. I don't know. And it's asking you to accept and allow this about yourself. So instead of being in denial, instead of blaming someone else, accept and allow this understanding of you behaving in darkness and that it is your free will. Oh wow. And this says answered calling. You were called to this. Answered calling. That's interesting because pick one was being asked to answer the call. This says you've already answered the call. Okay, so where you stand, pick two, is that you are in the process of being present with something that you have done that is a darker trait. Maybe you're just now becoming aware of it. Maybe you're just now becoming aware that you have a choice about it. Allowing your free will to take precedence in this situation. Yes, you are being called to look at a pattern of behaving in darkness, and you are allowing your free will to take precedence in this. So you are actually, where you stand is stepping out of an old cycle. It's kind of interesting because pick one had stepped out of an old cycle, and they were being faced with the fear of the unknown. So I guess I feel like I want to mention, like, you are stepping into this unknown by breaking this out, by breaking out of this behavior and being present and allowing and using your free will. And this was the time for you to do it. You have answered the call. You behaving in darkness could mean that you were just behaving in a way that you didn't understand that was a programmed in response due to fear. And then it's suddenly the light was shown on it and you were like, oh, I'm doing that because of fear. So this could actually be the next step after pick one. If you've been drawn to watching both, this could be the next step after pick one, where you actually do use your free will to become aware of that pattern in yourself. You allow it and you be present with the feelings that you have about it. Cool. Okay. That's the call. The call is to step forward using your free will, is to acknowledge you have the free will. Yes, to acknowledge you have free will. All right. I'm going to go to pick three. Pick three. Here's your reading. Oh, he got my text now. Sorry. If you're just tuning in and you fast forwarded through the intro, you won't know what that is, but okay, pick three. Just getting 3 cards at least here for where you stand. Well, pick threes. Has there been some hesitance? Has there been some pondering? Gotta get one more. Gonna do it a different way. Okay. Pick three. This is interesting because it's almost as if there was 2 options from pick one. So if you were like pick one, there was 2 options, 2 ways it could go. Pick 2 was one way, and this pick 3 is another way, I think. All right, so pick 3, where you stand is, it first said align with highest self. So it's asking you to align with the highest version of yourself. What would love do? And then it's telling you that you have a fear reaction going on. So something has evoked an avoidance of pain, an avoidance of fear, a fearful response, a fearful belief, a worry. Maybe you've acted in such a way that you're not proud of, lashed out, projected, denied, or fabricated. And it's saying like the highest version of yourself doesn't do that, and it wants you to take that high road, so to speak. You have recreated the past. So it's just saying, like, this is your comfort zone. The way you have reacted is your comfort zone. You know about it. It's predictable. You know what's going to happen. You know what to do. And it could repeat infinitely until you are ready to align with your highest self, which would be the version of yourself ready to end that cycle. So where you stand is living out a cycle that is based in fear. So it could be based in fear based on a belief that you have, and that belief could be a misunderstanding. And whatever's coming to mind, it could just be the way that you react in general, in all things, or there could be a specific thing that comes to mind. You know what? I feel like you're really confident in this thing. You don't think this is a problem. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. What's coming to mind is like somebody who retaliates when someone wrongs them, like someone who lashes out when somebody, you know, is perceived to have disrespected them. It's like that. It's like behaving like in what you feel is a justified way. So you feel really confident in behaving the way you're behaving, but this is kind of saying, just so you know, your highest self has a different view of that behavior. And if you would question yourself on why you've reacted that way and look for the last time that you felt this way, and then look and think back and ask yourself, when was the first time you ever felt this way? And I'm talking about the feeling associated with this reaction. And if you can identify the last time you felt this way and the first time you felt this way, then you've identified the loop from beginning to end. And that is going to be very valuable in breaking the cycle, because it helps you understand about yourself that you are repeating a pattern, that you are stuck in a loop. And basically it takes going back to the first incident and giving yourself what you actually needed. And there's a formula that actually everyone needs in these moments to not anchor in karma. I mean, if you want to put it simply, it's just acceptance for what is, but you can acknowledge how you felt in that moment, validate why you felt that way, accept that that's how you felt, and that this is how you've been reacting since, and then be present with how it felt. The feeling that you're trying to avoid when you react this way, be with that feeling. Be brave. Don't try to push it away, blame it on someone else, wish it was different, just let it be with you, as if it's a child. And this feeling is joining the bigger part of you who's handled everything you've handled up until this point in your life. So you are equipped to be with this part of yourself. Okay? And that's going to neutralize the energy and let you see past it and see a bigger picture view, so that you're no longer acting in such a way to avoid that pain, because now you're the version of yourself who's equipped and able to handle that pain should it happen again, which it's much less likely to do once you've neutralized, once you've become a conduit for it to pass through. You may need to hold space for it to pass through, but you know you can do it because you already did it. Okay? Okay, that is your reading on where you stand, pick 3. Thank you for participating. We're going to do some more quick little readings like this. I know this one had a really long intro, but I just felt like blabbing a little bit. But make sure you subscribe if you are interested in some more readings having to do with where you stand.